Hi everyone, it's Tom with another LEC preview. We're heading into the second week of the LEC Summer Split, and we are going to look at the games that are going to be played and do some predictions as per usual. And we kick off the weekend with SK Gaming versus Schalke 04, and I actually think that this is going to be a pretty close game, and that's not because I think that SK Gaming is going to massively improve from what they had shown in the opening week, which wasn't very good. But it's mainly because I think Schalke is pretty unpredictable and not really sure how they want to approach the games. Maybe that is something that they're going to have figured out heading into this game. But we saw, for example, from them against XL last weekend that they had a lead and they just threw it away. And that allowed XL to climb back into the game and eventually win it. Now, for SK Gaming, obviously in my predictions of the overall power rankings, I put them very low. I think they're going to be 9th and 10th overall. But I do think that the return of Blue is going to give some burst of energy to this roster. They're going to be able to play with the lineup that they practiced with for a long time until, obviously, on that very last moment, Blue had to be subbed out due to medical issues. Now, I hope for SK Gaming that they realize that they should play around Treats more, because he did have a pretty good opening weekend in the jungle role, I do think. But it's going to be interesting to see how SK is going to perform with Blue now on the roster. I think that 2 Hours was one of the best performing players on the roster actually in the opening weekend. So that's going to be interesting to see how Blue lives up to the bar that 2 Hours has set. Overall, I do still think that Schalke 04 will win this. Individually speaking, I do think that this roster is better, and I also do think that while it's going to be close, Schalke 04 is going to be able to identify better what to do in a clutch scenario. Then we go to Mad Lions versus XL. I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on this game. I think Mad Lions is going to win it, and pretty comfortably so. XL is just a weaker team than Mad Lions is, and while Mad Lions, you can say, oh, but you know, they lost against G2 and it didn't look too good. Yeah, sure, but afterwards they did play very well, at least much better than they did against G2. As I've said before, and I'll repeat myself a few times as I do my predictions, because I think maybe somebody misses it. I do think that Mad Lions, even if they do not perform very well early on, as long as they make playoffs, I think they're going to make Worlds. This is a roster that is probably going to slowly ramp up the effort they're going to put into the LEC, because they had MSI and all the players were very tired there. So even if we don't see a top shape Mad Lions in the opening weeks, I still very much expect them to maybe even win the LEC Summer Split. And yeah, against XL, sure, they won a game, which is nice, but yeah, they're no match for Mad Lions' team fighting, as well as their champion diversity, in my opinion. So we go to Rogue versus Misfits Gaming as the third game. It's going to be a very interesting one. Misfits Gaming, obviously, at the moment at the top of the leaderboard, sitting at a 3-0 score. Whereas Rogue did drop their final game of the weekend, which just wasn't pretty. They got kind of... they got kind of choked out by Fnatic, which was a very good game from Fnatic, obviously. But other than that, I do think that Rogue will win this game. Misfits, while they did go 3-0, it wasn't super clean overall. And I also do think that they showed some pretty clear weaknesses. VTO is obviously the strength in the mid lane for them. I do expect Rogue to be able to shut that down. Inspired is a jungler who is very good at identifying how to counter what the enemy team is doing. So as long as he and Larson team up to kind of keep VTO in check, I do think that Rogue should pretty easily win that game. And then we go to Vitality versus Fnatic, which is a game that many people are obviously looking forward to, because it's Selfmade versus his former team. I'm not sure if that's something that means anything to him specifically, but for the viewer, it's a good storyline to follow. Vitality in the opening weekend, I think, had good aggression, but needs to channel that. I think Fnatic is not as aggressive, more calculated, I should say. They're not very calculated quite yet, but more than Vitality. I do think that this is going to be a very close game as well. I do, in the end, think that Vitality will win it, because I think that aggression that they have shown so far is going to do very well against Fnatic, who will have difficulty fighting back from then on. I do absolutely see a world where Fnatic wins this, where Vitality gets too aggressive and Fnatic takes a step back and lets Vitality run themselves into a wall. But overall, if I look at the performance of week 1 and I look at how Vitality was able to focus mainly on our leader in the mid lane, who was a big carry for the team, I do think that he is somebody who can perform very well against Niski. And yeah, kind of, I in the same way that I do think Inspired is very good at recognizing what needs to be done in order to help his team, I think Bwipo, while he played pretty well in the jungle, actually, I think he's gonna need more time to learn to adapt to that. And yeah, so that's why I think that Vitality, through mainly mid jungle, is gonna be able to win that game. And we close off the day with G2 versus Astralis. And while G2 is G2 and they're going to have their happy games every now and then, obviously, I do not think that they have many risks going up against Astralis. This Astralis team is better than the one that we saw in spring because they've been playing together for a longer time. And I think that throughout Summer Split, they will only get more comfortable and be more consistent in what they do. But I still think that G2 should easily outclass this team based on level of play. I think in the bot lane, Astralis has Promiscu, who has been quite a liability in terms of dying too much. And if there's a team, or rather a player, that you should not do that a lot against, it's Reckless. I think that he is gonna be able to carry that game pretty confidently, I will say. And then we go to day 2. We started Vitality versus SK Gaming. Another pretty interesting game because Vitality obviously now has Crownshot in the bot lane, who used to play on SK Gaming. But I do not think that this is going to be very close. Just purely based on what I've seen from SK Gaming, I do not think that they're a team that knows very well what to do when they're behind. And Vitality is that team that's going to look for those early game skirmishes and capitalize on that and snowball that through the lead that they have extended further, get their carries ahead, and I do think they're going to win the game. And then we go to Misfits versus Astralis as the second game of Saturday. I could say that based on spring, this would be an interesting matchup because Misfits finished 7th and Astralis finished 9th, but I do think that Misfits overall has looked much better than Astralis has. Viteo, big carry in the mid lane. Felix obviously also had a very good game. I do think that this is a game where the Akali is definitely going to be banned by one of the two teams because both mid laners have been shown as very proficient players on the Akali. Overall, it's a pretty powerful champion at the moment. So who knows how much we'll actually see her this weekend. But Misfits overall, I think, a more coherent team than Astralis is at the moment, with a higher level of play throughout their team. I think the top lane here, it didn't have a great opening weekend, so against White Knight, who is having a great split so far, obviously only 3 games, but every game that he played with Astralis, he played very well on the Lee Sin especially, of course. So yeah, I don't think that it's going to be enough for Astralis to win through. But perhaps that's where we'll see some action. Overall, I do expect Misfits to win. Then we go to Schalke here versus Mad Lions. A match I personally am looking forward to quite a bit. Because I think these bot lanes can both get pretty aggressive. In the top lane, it's Armboots versus Broken Blade, the Turkish rivalry, which is pretty exciting. Overall, though, Mad Lions should probably easily win this game, right? Yeah, the team fighting is clean. They know when to seize the moments if their opponents drop the ball, and then Schalke is definitely the team that is dropping the ball quite a bit still. And we have Fnatic versus Excel. Yeah, I mean, I just don't have high expectations of Excel at the moment. Perhaps they're going to prove me wrong by beating Fnatic, but that's just not something I'm going to see at the moment. It is always weird to predict Fnatic, and especially now with that role swap, because in the spring split, this is a team that was very aggressive, just ran into everything and would grab the wins here and there, which is not something they're doing now, but I can definitely see them against a team like Excel maybe becoming a bit overconfident, and doing similar things. But overall, if you look at the individual level of play, their team strategy, Fnatic should easily win that game. And then we close off the weekend with the match of the week. It's Rogue versus G2. A very hype matchup, obviously. So far, Rogue has not won a single game in the LEC against G2 Esports, and they're looking to break that curse. But I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that, because G2, especially when it comes to the stronger opponents, kind of levels up and takes it extra seriously, which is also why I do think that they will win against Rogue. I will have to say that this is going to be probably, if not the closest game, at least a super close game, where Rogue is going to try to play around the map in typical Rogue fashion, try to find their pressure points, where I do think that G2 is maybe going to try to shut down Larson as much as possible in the mid lane, which is... I have nothing against Larson, obviously, but it's always exciting to see G2 group up and gang up and dive on their play, on the opponent player. So that is something I expect to see a lot, and it just remains to be seen if Rogue is going to find a way to win through a different avenue. Hansama obviously had a fantastic opening weekend to the Summer Split, so perhaps he will be able to do a lot, but I do think that him and Reckless are very evenly matched, so that's it's gonna be a close one, but as I said, I do think that G2 will win. And that's it for my LEC preview for the second week of the LEC Summer Split. Let me know in the comments below which games you are looking forward to. Also, if you have any different opinions on how games are gonna go, please let me know as well. I do think that this weekend is gonna maybe a bit more easy to predict than the opening weekend, which saw a lot of even matchups in my opinion. But now watch that come bite me in the ass and I have every single prediction wrong or something like this. That will be a story. But if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me a lot. And if you still want to play LEC Super Fantasy, there's a link to the lobby in the description of this video. You'll be starting with some points less than the leaders, but there's many weeks left to play. So if you play super well, you can definitely still catch up. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the interviews I released this week, and I'll see you all on Sunday for the LEC recap.